time to take a look at 2 episodes which focus on Teela, a character I've rarely stopped to talk about. Even so, Teela has an obviously huge presence in the series, with her being the daughter of the sorceress. Her origins were explained in Teela's quest, which I reviewed as a part of the Season 1 look-back reviews a couple of years ago, but now it's time to look at 2 more episodes starring the hot-blooded captain of the Royal Guards, Teela's Trial and Teela's Triumph. Let's begin with Teela's Trial. The episode has Man-at-Arms and company going out in the wastelands to test out his new teleporter. However, Trapjaw sees what they're doing, and after he attacks Duncan, after he's teleported himself to another side of a cliff, he throws it back to Teela so Trapjaw won't get it. Dude, you have a teleporter. Why not, teleport your way back? Well, Teela gets a hold of the teleporter and tries to get her father off the other side. Then Adam sticks the attack track on Trapjaw and he flees. However, Duncan is teleported somewhere else in the wasteland and Trapjaw quickly tracks him down and traps him. He then takes Duncan to Snake Mountain, where he plans to force him into making a teleporter for Skeletor. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Adam and Teela try to reach Duncan's communicator, but because he's not answering, Teela begins to think that she's accidentally killed her father by teleporting him somewhere dangerous. She resigns from her post and puts herself in exile. That evening, though, Duncan is able to rig a communicator with the small amount of tools given to him by Skeletor and informs Adam that he's alive. Adam then goes after Teela, becomes He-Man, saves her from a snake monster, and the two of them head off to rescue Man-at-Arms. Teela's Trial is probably one of the best late Season 1 episodes, though the opening premise is a little dumb, considering Duncan should have totally been able to just teleport to safety. I find Teela's reaction in this episode kinda soul-crushing and sad. I think this is one of those brilliant episodes that shows well how Teela isn't just a meathead Amazon and actually thinks about the consequences of her actions. The latter half of this episode also shows her still doubting herself, which is also a nice touch and humanizes her a whole lot. And let's face it, who wouldn't feel like shit if they thought they might have accidentally killed one of their parents? Being a late Season 1 episode, the animation quality is mostly solid, and I'm even impressed that there's a lot of new animation too. However, it's the writing of this episode which is the really awesome part. The dialogue has a level of depth you rarely see in most He-Man episodes. I even love little subtle moments like when King Randor expresses concern for Adam, who's been sitting at the communicator all night waiting to hear from Duncan. This is all around a classy episode, with only maybe the initial premise being a bit dumb, and the finale a little anticlimactic, with He-Man and Skeletor having a little one-on-one bout that's not even all that interesting. However, for its writing alone, this is an absolute must-see of an episode. Now for Teela's Triumph. This episode appeared in the 2nd season of He-Man, and it's really notable because it's the only other time in the series where Teela, being the sorceress's daughter, is stated explicitly, and this episode also deals heavily with the idea. However, it maybe then sadly doesn't quite live up to the expectations I had of it in regards to the quality, but let's see. Now the plot kicks off when the sorceress is speaking to the spirit of Grayskull and suddenly begins missing Teela, so she decides to go see her as Zoar and flies over Snake Mountain just as Skeletor is about to test out his new weapon, which sends her to another planet. Yep, pretty much like the Diamond Ray of Disappearance. With the sorceress gone, the spirit of Grayskull beckons Teela to Grayskull to learn its secrets and help defend it. Meanwhile, He-Man heads off to Snake Mountain to get zapped and gets the sorceress back. He saves the sorceress from inside a volcano and they use He-Man's sword to pull themselves back to Eternia. In the meanwhile, Teela disguises herself as the sorceress and with the assistance of the spirit traps Skeletor's lackeys, thus buying enough time for He-Man to show up. Teela's Triumph is a pretty interesting episode because it basically shows us what kind of ordeals Teela would have to go through once she takes over as the sorceress of Grayskull. It's a very well written episode with tons of really well thought out dialogue, and the finale even seems to suggest Teela might know the truth about her mother. That said, there's a couple of things about this episode that really bug me. Chief amongst them is the spirit of Grayskull, a character who appears in absolutely no other episode. Now, thanks to some other He-savvy friends of mine, I'm aware that a character similar to this has made appearances in some other unofficial spin-off material, but if you remember my review of The Secret of Grayskull, you'll remember that I have a huge problem when episode writers just introduce new things into the He-canon without any real explanation. Now luckily the spirit of Grayskull is at least subtle enough of a character that I'm not that hugely bothered by him. I still think it's a bit bullshit, since he doesn't even appear in the Origin of the Sorceress episode. Once again, the writer for this episode, Joseph Botsford, only wrote one entire He-Man script, so we can take this again as the reason for why this one-off character appears here. And just like with Teela's trial, I also find the episode's initial premise kinda dumb. The sorceress is missing Teela and wants to go out, which again is completely at odds with how the character acts most of the time. I mean, I'm sure a more clever writer could have come up with any other reason for her to leave Grayskull. But what's more inexcusable in my view than the sorceress just bolting from Grayskull is the fact that she should fly over Snake Mountain. Now, I'm not a master of Eternian geography, but I'm pretty sure Snake Mountain's never been depicted being somewhere halfway between Grayskull and Palace Eternos. So to me, it seems more like the sorceress just has piss poor sense of direction in this episode. But if you can forgive the pretty asinine opening premise of this episode, Teela's Triumph is actually otherwise a really well thought out episode and definitely worth a watch. And that's all from me for now. Until next time, I have the power, so can you.